Hello guys. All right. So I'm sure the interim is not something fun to do, but I think it's really important to kind of retest yourself on that stuff before we get to your midterm exam. Because then we have a whole new semester of stuff before it's the AP test. So the more we can just kind of repeat that information, the better. All right. So we have 2 more chapters or 2 more units left this semester. Unit 6 is on learning, Unit 7 is on cognition, and boom, that's it. It's quick. All right. Okay, so you should have picked up your summaries and the classical conditioning worksheet. That's what we're going to talk about today. This is one of those days that I'm really bummed I'm not there because I hate doing this on video. But on Monday, we're kind of revisiting some of these ideas as well and then kind of going deeper with it. All right, okay, so learning. How do we learn? That is a big question, right? Immediately, you probably go to school. Like, how do I learn things? I read it, I study it, I repeat it, I type it out, I watch videos, whatever it is. But I'm even going to kind of a more basic style of learning of how do you learn anything from, like, think about being a baby. Hanley's learning a lot with words. She's learning correct behaviors. There's even that bigger concept of learning. Okay? So in this chapter, we're going to talk about 3 different ways that we learn. All right, but here's your official how to define learning. It's one of those Webster's. That's a big idea, learning. So here's your book definition. A relatively permanent change in an organism's behavior due to experience. So you're seeing a change in an organism's behavior. Now, some people have a problem with this definition. What would they say? They would say that, well, I could have learned something but not have changed my behavior, right? It's like, yeah, I know that's the right thing to do. I've learned that, but I don't want to do it. So people would say that's not a very, you don't include the cognitive perspective at all. That's very, what word? Behaviorist oriented, right? They only care about behavior and not what's going on up here. Okay. So anyway, we're going to talk about three different styles. Each one's going to take probably about 2, maybe 3 days to get through. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story. I want you to imagine yourself. Okay, ready? Close your eyes. Imagine yourself out at spring break. And you decide to go to Florida to the beach. And you're playing on the sand and you're having fun. And then you decide to go run in the water. Oops. Go run in the water. And you're playing around and you're having so much fun. And you play tag in the water and then you throw a ball back and forth. And you're like, man, it is so great to be on spring break at the beach, chilling with my homies. I feel like you guys can't hear that. What's about to happen? Boom. Shark attack. Jaws. Have you seen Jaws? Okay, have you at least, if you have, the answer is no, have you at least heard that music before? The answer is probably yes, right? So, what just happened there is you heard music, and I set a scene for you too. You heard music, and what did you do? You associated that, your mind jumped to shark, or Jaws, right? So, shark attack. You associated a sound with something else. Okay? Okay, so the first learning style that we're going to talk about is called classical conditioning. And it's all about associating things, learning that two things go together, or two events go together. So for example, if you've ever experienced this at home, that somebody uses the toilet while you're taking a shower, you, in most places, right, are expecting what event to go with that. That the water is going to get cold, or some places it gets like really hot. And so even before it does, you jump out of the way, right? So your behavior, that event, you've associated with with that toilet flush. If this hasn't happened to you yet, probably in college. So you've learned that these two things go together, and then you change your behavior, right? You don't just sit there and say, "Come get me ice cold water." Maybe you do. All right. Another example of this: dogs or cats. I just don't know about cats. I'm allergic. Nah. Okay. Anybody have dogs or a toddler around? You go to where you keep their treats. You open the cabinet door. I'm actually thinking of my daughter. We have one place where we keep our snacks. She sees it, and boom, she's excited. Actually, she probably cries that she wants something. Same thing with your dog. You open that place where you keep your treats, and what do? They start wagging their tail. They might run around in a circle. They might jump up, whatever. They have associated that event, opening that door, with something else, right? That association. Okay, so they have been classically conditioned. Same thing with lightning and thunder. If you see lightning, you anticipate thunder and you kind of brace yourself. You're associating. Okay? Okay. So this style of learning all goes down to behaviorism, which actually I think all three of these learning styles are behaviorists. So this book is a very behaviorist focused. All right, you remember what behaviorism is? It's perspective of psychology, right, that focuses on rewards and punishment, or how they change their behavior. Okay? They do not care about mental processes, right? They don't care about what you're thinking. They care about what they can see, that observable behavior. So 3 famous guys are Pavlov. All right, we're going to talk about him today. Watson, we're going to talk about him later, and Skinner. Look at that handsome fellow right there on the right. Look at Skinner. B.F. Skinner, even a better name. Okay. And they are all about, I can train a behavior. I can make somebody learn. I can train you. So the most famous case of this, of classical conditioning, is Ivan Pavlov. This is one of those names where even if you haven't taken psychology, you might have heard of him. It's like him and Freud are the 2 famous ones. Okay? All right. I want you to go watch this link. It's in your email. You can type this in if you want to, or it's in your email. So go watch that and then come back to me. All right? Okay. So Pavlov. So this is kind of a weird experiment to start with, but it proved something kind of famous, right? Okay, so in this picture and in that video, you saw them strap up dogs, right? So they can't move, which is a little sad. And present food and present stimuli, right? Because there's going to be a lot of vocab in this chapter, just like last chapter. And got to really make sure you understand the deeper idea before you try and memorize it. Okay, so just in general, classical conditioning, what does it mean to be conditioned? Right, if you think about a sport, okay, we have conditioning today. I don't know if you've ever said that. So conditioning means training, right, usually. You've been trained. For us, it meant running, training that way. So if you're classically conditioned, you've been trained in this certain way, okay? Here's your really official definition. A type of learning where a stimulus gains the power to cause a response. So think about this experiment they just did. What stimulus causes a response? Like a bell or a light or a sound causes, what's the response? The drooling. Okay. Okay, why does it do that? Because it predicts another stimulus that already produces the response. Okay, it gets paired with, it predicts another stimulus. So what other stimulus already produces the drooling, that response? Food does, right? Food. So when they realize that that bell or that sound is going to predict food coming out, they're going to respond early. Okay, so they're basically learning, they're associating two things together. They're associating. Back to that word. You're learning, you're associating that toilet flush with that hot water, so that you jump out of the way. Same thing here. They're associating a bell or a sound with food, so what they do, they respond by drooling. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of fancy definitions here. I want you to grab that classical conditioning worksheet out. We're going to write these down, and I want you to put them in your own words so that you understand them, and then you're going to draw a picture at the end, okay? Okay. Unconditioned stimulus. All right, so I'm going to use my fancy pen here. So what do we say condition meant? Trained or taught, right? Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Trained. Okay, and so un means not, right? So here, an unconditioned stimulus means it is not trained. It is not trained in them. They haven't been taught it. If you haven't been taught it, then it's natural, right? There's things in your life that when you were a baby, some things you were taught, but some things were natural. Okay, and then a stimulus is something that basically that you respond to. So stimulus causes a response. So here's your official definition. A stimulus that triggers a response automatically and reflexively, like a reflex. So something triggers a response automatically. Okay, it's unconditioned. So here, if you're hungry, you're going to see a hamburger, if you like meat actually. Maybe this is disgusting. But automatically, it would make you start to salivate. Now, we're not like dogs and it like comes out, right? But, so for the dogs here, that food, dog food, whatever it is, that is the unconditioned stimulus. They naturally begin to drool. They're not taught. A dog's not taught. Okay, ready? Drool when I tell you to. It's not taught. It's natural. All right, next one. Feel free to pause me whenever you need to. I'll have to stop this. That's annoying. No. Okay. Stupid thing. Come on. Oh, no. Oh, no. What's happening? Hold on. I'm going to pause you so I figure this out. Okay, we're good. Okay, so same kind of idea here. I'm going to take my pen. Alright. Conditioned, we said was trained or taught. And un means not. So it's not a trained response, it's a natural response. Okay, so there's your official definition. The automatic response, your natural response, to that unconditioned stimulus. Now, for you guys, is it an automatic response to drool when I show you my phone? No, you're not going to start drooling here automatically, right? That is not an unconditioned response. So here, where it says the automatic response to the unconditioned stimulus, drooling, you might be right, the automatic response is drooling, but it's not to the phone. It is to whatever causes that, whatever stimulus. So that's food in this case. Okay, so that's going to be abbreviated as UCR. You'll see that as well. UCR. UCS and UCR. Okay? Alright. Well, then what Pavlov did is he took a bell, which was a previously neutral stimulus. Neutral. What that means is that in the past, ringing a bell, the dog would have looked, right? But it's not going to do anything. It's not something that he's going to make him drool. The neutral stimulus, previously, But because it's been paired with that food every time, paired with that food, paired with that food every time, okay, it's going to gain the power to cause, so it's going to gain the power to cause a conditioned response. Boom, condition. So here, what does condition mean? It means trained or taught. So now, over time, God, that's so bad, that stimulus, that sound, is going to cause a response. Okay, so it's a previously neutral, and then eventually it's going to cause that response. Got it? Okay. I'm going to give you other examples too, other than just this Pavlov thing, so that you, because obviously this is in our lives everywhere. So you get to understand these words somewhere else. Okay? And then here, the last one is now you have a trained response condition, a trained response to that bell, to that previously neutral stimulus, the response to the conditioned stimulus. Okay, here's something to note here, is that usually the conditioned response and the unconditioned response are pretty similar, the drooling, right? Because originally they're drooling to the food, and later they're going to drool to the phone, or to the bell, to the sound. So those are going to be pretty similar. They can be slightly different, but later you're going to have to like label, okay, what's the conditioned response, what's the unconditioned response? They're usually the same thing. Okay, I want you to go to this website. I put it in your email, and I want you to see if you can train Pavlov's dogs. Okay, so try a couple times, see if you can train it. What I want you to do is I want you to train the food. Can you get them to drool to one of those sounds? All right, let's see how many times it takes you. Okay, so as you trained that, two things you got to notice. Okay, these are important ideas. Are one, when you're learning to train that dog or that person, okay, does the neutral stimulus, okay, the bell, right, does the neutral stimulus come before or after the unconditioned stimulus, which was the food? Okay, I'm going to say it again. So in order to train the dog to drool to the bell, do you put the bell before or after the food? So hopefully your answer was before. Okay? Let's imagine that you gave the food and then rang the bell. Well, they're already going to be drooling because they got the food. They get food first, they're drooling, and then the bell goes off and they're like, that's annoying, right? So they're not going to have any connection there. But if the bell comes first, and then the food, the bell and the food, bell, food, but eventually they see that bell and they're like, food's coming, food's coming, food's coming, right? So just remember that the bell has to come before the food, or in fancy words, the neutral stimulus, the conditioned stimulus, has to come before the unconditioned stimulus. Okay, the second big part of this was, I'm sure some of you guys did this. Let's say you honked the horn before you gave them the food. Well, what happens if you honk the horn and then wait? You don't feed them for a couple of seconds, like 5-10 seconds, and then you give them the food. What's going to happen is that they're going to be like, okay, bell, okay, bell, bell. Oh, look, there's food. It's too far apart. They can't connect them. So they basically have to be as close by each other as they can, like a half a second before. They have to be really close. Because if you even think about like dogs, if I open that cabinet and then I just leave it open and I come back later and then I go get that, they're not going to associate those things together. It's just going to be open cabinet, I give food, right? So those things have to be close together. Which is why when teachers take forever to grade things, they get a grade, and a lot of times it's hard to connect with oh, did I work hard for that grade, or did I study, did I not? So we try and give things back as soon as possible so that you can make that association between how did I study and how was my grade. Okay, I'm almost done. All right, I don't know if you've seen this. It's from The Office. I'm hoping you can hear it. But this is an example of how Jim decided to classically condition Dwight. All right? Okay. You know what? I'm worried you didn't see that. You just saw my face. I'm going to put that link in the email as well. Okay? Alright, I want you to do one thing and then you're kind of done. We're going to do an example on Monday. Oh, I remember. Okay, I want you to, on a scratch sheet of paper, draw this chart out. Okay? Draw this chart out. And then don't worry about squirt gun. We're going to do that on Monday. I want to see if you can label without, like Pavlov's dog's on here. Don't go look at your notes. You can look at definitions, but don't go look at kind of what it was. See if you can label what each one of these was in all three of these things. So Pavlov's dogs that we just talked about, Jaws, the music at the beginning that we talked about, and then The Office, that clip. Okay? If you didn't see that clip, it's in my email. All right, so finish that. Hopefully you didn't finish too early, and then we'll recap on Monday. All right, bye guys.